two gas stations. Same corner, same price. Give or take 3 cents a gallon. One of them is quietly baking carbon onto the back of your intake valves. The other one's rinsing it off every time you fill up. And you can't tell which is which by looking at the sign. That's the part nobody explains to you. I spent 18 years inside the companies that build your car. Ford, then GM in the powertrain division, then Stellantis doing transmission validation, until I walked out in 2023. And in all that time, one of the dumbest, most expensive problems I watched land on customers over and over had nothing to do with the car. It was what they were pumping into it. So here's what I'm gonna do. Later in this video, I'm gonna show you two numbers from an independent lab test. Two intake valves, same engine, same 4,000 miles, different gas. And when you hear those two numbers back to back, you're gonna stop at the next red light and pull up an app on your phone. I've seen this change how people fill up permanently. Stick with me, because the number is going to sound like a typo. But first, you need to understand the villain. And the villain isn't a brand, it's a floor. Back in 1995, the EPA did something that sounded good on paper. They said, look, every gallon of gasoline sold in this country has to contain a minimum level of detergent additive. Detergent, that's the cleaning agent mixed into the fuel that scrubs deposits off your injectors and valves as the gas flows through. Good idea, right? Every gallon has to clean a little. Here's the problem. They set a floor, not a target. A floor. The absolute lowest amount you could legally get away with. They called it the lowest additive concentration. That's the actual name. Lowest allowable concentration. Read that back to yourself. And here's what happened next, and this is the part that still bothers me. Before that rule, a bunch of the major fuel marketers were actually running higher detergent levels than the new law required. They were doing the right thing on their own. Then the federal minimum shows up, and a lot of them drop their detergent down to the legal floor because the floor was cheaper. Why put in more cleaner than the law makes you? That's 40 cents a gallon of margin nobody's gonna notice until they notice. I sat in rooms where this exact math got done. Not on fuel, but on parts. Same logic, same cold arithmetic. Somebody puts a slide up showing a failure rate, and somebody senior looks at it and says, that's within tolerance, move on. I remember the coffee being cold. That's how these calls get made, not with malice, with a spreadsheet. So by the early 2000s, the automakers had a problem. Engines were getting more sophisticated, tighter tolerances, fuel injection everywhere, emissions hardware that clogged if you looked at it wrong, and the EPA floor wasn't cutting it. Cars were coming into dealers with gummed up injectors. Rough idle, hesitation. The engineers knew exactly why. Cheap gas. But the EPA wouldn't raise the standard. So the automakers did something almost unheard of. They stopped waiting. In 2004, 4 of the big ones, General Motors, BMW, Toyota, and Honda, sat down together and wrote their own gasoline standard. Not the fuel companies, the car companies. They said if the government won't require enough detergent, we'll define what enough actually looks like, and we'll put our names on it. They called it top tier. And today, that list of backers has grown to about a dozen automakers. Ford, Volkswagen, Audi, Mercedes-Benz, Stellantis, Subaru, all of them signed on. Think about what that means for a second. The people who designed your engine, who know every failure mode in it, got together and told you in writing what to put in the tank. That almost never happens. These companies don't agree on anything. They agreed on this. And here's what top tier actually requires, because this is where it gets concrete. A licensed top tier station has to carry somewhere between 2 and 3 times the detergent additive the EPA floor demands. 2 to 3 times. And it can't contain certain metallic additives, cheap octane boosters that leave ash and can foul your oxygen sensors and catalytic converter over time. And this is the part almost nobody knows. The standard applies to every grade they sell. Regular, mid, premium, all of it. You do not need to buy premium to get the detergent. If it's a top-tier station, the 87-octane regular has the same cleaning package as the 93. Let me say that again, because it saves you real money. You are not buying detergent when you buy premium. You're buying octane. Those are two completely different things. If your car calls for regular, buy regular. Just buy it somewhere that's top tier. Anybody telling you to run premium to keep the engine clean in a car that doesn't need premium is costing you 50-60 cents a gallon for nothing. Okay, the number. I promised you the number. In 2016, AA got tired of the marketing hype around all this and did something smart. They hired an independent certified engine lab, ran the same engine on top-tier gas and non-top-tier gas, regular gas that only met the EPA floor, 4,000 miles of simulated driving each. Then they pulled the engine apart and weighed the gunk on the intake valves. Here are your two numbers. The top-tier gas left an average of 34 milligrams of deposit per intake valve. The non-top-tier gas, the stuff meeting only the legal minimum, 660 milligrams. 34 versus 660, that's 19 times more carbon. 19 times, same engine, same miles. The only variable was the station, and this wasn't some lab curiosity. That's 4,000 miles. Most people drive that in 3-4 months. One season of the wrong gas and your valves are wearing a coat. Hold up, stop. I want you to sit with how insane that is. If I told you two identical trucks drove the same route and one used 19 times more oil, you'd say something's badly broken. This is the same thing, and the fix costs you about 3 cents a gallon. That carbon isn't cosmetic. Deposits on the valves and injectors mess with how fuel sprays and how the valve seals. Over time, you lose 2 to 4% of your fuel economy. Doesn't sound like much until you do the math. Say you spend $200 a month on gas. 4% is $8 a month, 96 a year, just quietly leaking out the tailpipe because of where you filled up. And that's before you get to the drivability stuff, the rough idle, the hesitation when you punch it to merge, the hard start on a cold morning. Now here's the good news, and I love this part because it means you're not stuck. AA also took a dirty high-mileage engine and ran it on top-tier gas alone. No shop, no additive bottle, nothing but better gas. And a big chunk of the existing deposits came off, just from switching brands. So if you've been filling up wherever's cheapest for years, you didn't ruin anything permanent. Switch, drive a few thousand miles, and the engine starts cleaning itself. That's not a sales pitch. That's just what detergent does when you finally give it enough of it. Now, the question you actually clicked for, which stations? And here's where I have to be straight with you because this is where every other channel lies to you to get you angry. It is not about the brand having a fancy logo. It's not big name good, small name bad. That's lazy and it's wrong. Costco, the warehouse club, the cheapest gas in most towns, is top-tier certified. So is Kirkland, their own label. Meanwhile, there are shiny, expensive-looking stations that are not on the list. You cannot tell by the building. You cannot tell by the price. You can only tell one way. You look it up. The automakers who back the standard maintain an official list. Every single licensed brand is on it. There's a website, toptiergus.com, and there's a station finder app that shows you the top tier stations near wherever you're standing. That's the whole trick. 2 minutes, one time, and you know your regular spots forever. Some top tier pumps have a little decal on them, but not all of them do. And the absence of a sticker doesn't mean anything. If the brand's on the list, every pump at that station qualifies whether it's labeled or not. The names you already know are mostly on there. Chevron, Shell, ExxonMobil, Marathon, Phillips 66, Costco, BP, and about 100 more. What you're avoiding isn't a specific competitor I'm gonna name and slander. What you're avoiding is the category. The unbranded, no-name station running gas at the EPA floor to shave a couple cents. And the thing is, you don't have to guess which one that is. The list already told you. If it's not on the list, treat it like the floor. Let me tell you where this got real for me. My neighbor down the street, good guy, drives a 2015 Malibu, the 2.5 1.5. He'd been filling up at this off-brand place by the highway on-ramp for 2 years because it was 4 cents cheaper. Comes over one Saturday. Tells me the car's idling rough and stumbling on cold starts, and a shop quoted him around $500 to clean the fuel system. I popped the hood. We went for a drive, and I told him, don't spend the $500 yet. Just fill up top tier for a month, run the tank low each time so the detergent's concentrated, and come back. 3 fill-ups later, the stumble was gone. He spent maybe $9 extra in gas instead of $500 at a shop. That's the whole channel right there in one story. Now let me clear up the other thing everybody blames. Ethanol. You've heard it. Ethanol wrecks your engine. Ethanol dries out your injectors. Let me give you the honest version because it's more useful than the scary version. Almost all regular gas in this country is E10, 10% ethanol. Every modern car is built to run E10. Your Camry, your F-150, your Civic, engineered for it, warranted for it. It is not eating your injectors. I know that's not the dramatic answer. It's the true one. Where ethanol actually matters is 2 places. 1, E15, the 15% blend. The one with the yellow label. It's approved for most 2001 and newer vehicles, but check your owner's manual and never put it in a boat, a mower, a small engine, or an older classic. That stuff isn't built for it, and the alcohol can chew up the fuel system. 2, ethanol pulls moisture and it doesn't store well. So if you've got a car or a bike that sits for months, that's a different conversation. But for your daily driver, ethanol is not the villain. The detergent level is. People obsess over the 10% alcohol on the label and completely ignore the thing that's actually deciding whether their valves stay clean. Top tier is about the detergent package, totally separate from how much ethanol's in the blend. Don't let the ethanol boogeyman distract you from the fill-up that's actually costing you. Here's a step past what most channels will give you, and this ties the whole thing together. It depends on how your engine sprays fuel, and this splits along model years. If you drive something from the 90s up through the mid-2010s, you've most likely got port fuel injection. The injector sits in the intake manifold and sprays fuel right onto the back of the intake valve before it goes into the cylinder, which means the fuel and all that detergent riding in it physically washes the valve every cycle. For those engines, top tier isn't a nice to have. It's washing the exact part that gets dirty. The AOT test was run on that kind of engine, and that's why the difference was so brutal. Toyota mostly ran port injection well into that era. Honda too, before they moved to direct injection on engines like the 1.5 turbo. GM went direct injection early and aggressively. So, 2 cars in the same driveway, same year, might handle deposits completely differently, depending on how the fuel gets in. Same rule, different stakes. Which brings me to the thing I'm not gonna fully open up here because it deserves its own video. On the newest engines, gasoline direct injection, GDI, which is on most cars built in the last several years. The injector moved. It's no longer spraying the valve. It sprays fuel directly into the cylinder, past the valve entirely. Great for efficiency. But it means the fuel never touches the back of your intake valves anymore, which means the detergent in your gas, even perfect top-tier gas, never washes them. So on those engines, the carbon builds up in a spot the fuel can't reach, and no amount of good gas fixes it. It's a genuinely different problem, and the fix is not what you think. And honestly, it's the most expensive misunderstanding in modern engines right now. I've seen shops quote $400 to $600 to physically blast that carbon off with crushed walnut shells. That's the next video. Because if you drive anything recent, top-tier gas is still worth it. It keeps your injectors and combustion chamber clean, but it will not save your intake valves, and you need to know exactly what does. If you're not subscribed, get it done now, because when I put that one up, you won't get told it's live. And for anybody driving a direct injection car, it's going to matter more than everything I just said. My kid Jake's already eyeing an old WRX for when he starts driving, and that's exactly the kind of engine this bites. So trust me, I'm making that video whether you watch it or not. In the meantime, I'm giving you a job. Pull up that station finder tonight. Check the place you fill up at most. Then come back down to the comments and tell me one thing. Is your regular station on the list? Yes or no? That's it. The people who actually go check are the ones whose engines are gonna outlast the payment book. The people who scroll past and keep pumping mystery gas will be right back here in 2 years asking why the car idles like it's got a cough. Go look. Tell me what you found.